Hey, I'm Ayuma Michelle, and welcome to Let's with Ayuma. This is an online safe space that I started for progressive women globally so that you and I can thrive with purpose. Today, I'm actually going to discuss a very serious topic, and it is about dealing with grief. Are you battling with grief during this pandemic? This episode is for you, and I'm also going to share a personal tool that I actually use to manage my grief. Okay, but just before we go any further, please subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. And yes, if you like my content so far, please, just subscribe. But if this is your very first time on this channel, please watch this video. If you like it, subscribe. Okay? So, this week I've actually been engaging in very serious conversations with women. I've been doing check-ins in my women networks, both in public forums and private forums. Those of you who don't know, I'm also a community manager of a couple of women communities. So I like doing check-ins. Sometimes the check-ins are quite public within the group, and sometimes the check-ins are actually one-on-one. So as I've been doing these check-ins, I've realized that people are really going through a lot of loss and are grieving a lot. And what grief is a response to loss. That's what it is. There's no rocket science into it. Grief is basically a response to loss. And one thing that I've also realized is that while there are people who are conscious and aware that they are actually going through grief, there are those who are not aware at all. And this is why it is important for me to actually talk about this topic. Okay? So, realize that grief looks actually different for different people. Okay? So the first one is people have gone through so much loss. The first type of loss that many people know is loss of loved ones. But also because of this pandemic, there are people who've gone through a loss of livelihoods, which is really serious, guys. Like, people have lost their jobs, they have lost their businesses. Many businesses have closed down, and there are many people who are actually even homeless at the moment, right? There are people who have lost a sense of freedom. Maybe if you're a free spirit and you just love moving around or traveling or doing all sorts of stuff, or if you're a communal person like me, there's that freedom of connecting with people. There's that loss of freedom. But there's also a loss of love and relationships. This pandemic has really brought out the worst in our societies. You've seen that gender-based violence is on the rise. You've seen that there's been the black and white challenge, which actually originally originated in Turkey, because in Turkey they've actually recorded a high amount of femicides, in the country. And the unfortunate thing is that the country, instead of addressing it, they're trying to legalize it because it's a serious patriarchal system. So you see, the black and white challenge has come up to create that awareness of femicides. Women are being killed, guys. Women are being killed. And it is not funny. And even here in my country, Kenya, women are going through all manner of things. They're going through all manner of challenges and experiences where you even, like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just don't understand why, of all times in history, this is actually happening. That a society would choose that it's women's lives that have to be taken as a response to people dealing with their anger and stuff like that. I just don't understand it. It's really sad. So, but also femicides, most of the time when it comes to gender-based violence and rape and stuff like that, it's normally by people who know these women, or neighbors, people who closely know these people, these women. And so there's been a rise in that, even in my own country. And there's also a loss of dreams. This could be a business. This could be a place where you'd saved up so much just to travel to a certain place, but suddenly, because of all of the restrictions, people just can't travel to any place they want. Right now, people and embassies are really, really, they're really, really thinking things through before letting in people into their countries. But it could also be a project. Maybe you worked so hard on this project and you were just about to launch, and then COVID hit, and suddenly people or various stakeholders, they decided to mainly focus on they've decided to focus on basics. Because I told you before in a previous video that during economic crisis, people focus on the basics. And right now people are focusing on the basics, right? So if you're going through this, know that you're not alone. Know that you're not alone. And know that you're not powerless in this situation. Basically, what you're going through is a death of something. It could be someone or something or a love or a relationship that is meaningful to you. The best thing you can do right now is, first of all, acknowledge what you're going through, acknowledge the emotions, the frustrations, all of that stuff that comes with it. And also know that there is no perfect recipe for going through grief. There's no perfect recipe for going through grief. In my previous video, I talked about my business, which I'd started it in my previous startup. I'd started it in 2014, and I'm still grieving it till today. It's not an easy process to start a beautiful business, invest so much in it, and somehow it fails. It is not something that you just forget. When you lose something that is meaningful and important to you, you can't just bury it in a box and move on. That is the most annoying word you can ever hear when you're going through grief. Move on. We do not move on from grief. We move forward with it. So what you need to do when you're grieving is to learn how to move forward with the grief, not to move on. Because moving on means you dump it in the back and you move forward. No. Seasons of grief also come with serious lessons, adjustment. And the hard thing about grief is actually change. That's what it is. Change. Because a beautiful friend of mine told me, once shared an amazing post online, and I ended up having a little chat with her, just telling how, my goodness, I needed to hear this, because at that time I had let go of a possible relationship that I was building, and I had put so much into it. But then this is what she said: grief is love that has no place to go. Realize that. Grief is love that has no place to go. Grief is love that has no place to go. It could be a loved one. Love that you had towards a loved one. Where this love that you had for this person, where does it go now? It could be a pet that you had, that you nurtured, but the pet passed on. Where does that love go now? It could be an amazing dream you are building for yourself, for your community, for your family, for your legacy. Where does that love go now? It could be an amazing freedom that you had to travel to any place in this world, meeting new people, writing, documenting it, and teaching people that we have so much more in common, right? But what do you do with that love when you have no place to go, literally, because of all these boundaries that have been closed? It could be a relationship that you were building, and you were building it and it was escalating, and you're like, wow, this is something beautiful that is growing, but an interruption happened. What do you do with all that love that has no place to go? What do you do when you have so much love, but it has no place to go? This is why for grief, it's more about management than erasure. You can't just erase grief. You learn how to manage it so that you move forward with it. And let me share with this. I am not a grief counselor. I am a coach. But there are some things between coaching and therapy and counseling that are actually very common. For example, patterns. And for me to work with somebody, I need this person to first acknowledge that they have a problem. And I need them in detail to tell me what the problem is, what that problem physically, like literally looks like, the texture of it, and where would they like to be. This is very common. It's the same with even therapists and stuff. But I am not sharing this information as a therapist or as a counselor. No. I'm sharing this from my own personal journey as somebody who's gone through multiple events of grief, and I have learned how to move forward with it. I am still dealing with grief from even 10 years ago. For example, last month or the month before, I literally had a dream about my late grandfather who passed on around 10 years ago. And I just cried. I woke up crying because I really felt like I missed him so much. And that's 10 years ago. And I'm sure if I told somebody about it, they would have been like, oh, but it's been 10 years, move on. You can't tell somebody move on. It's something we learn to move forward with. And the thing with grief is that it doesn't look like it starts here and you end here. Grief looks like this. You can start at a low and go to a high, then a low, then a high, or you can start at a low and even go lower. It's a process of its own. And so you need to be very conscious, but also you need to be very compassionate with yourself as you go through it. It's not a one fix all thing. It's something you are learning to move forward with, right? So these are some of the things that I have learned. 7 stages of grief. Please ask yourself if you could be going through grief and at what stage you could be. The reason why this is important is for the reason why I told you that you need to be aware of what you're going through even before you seek help. Before you go to a doctor, you need to have an awareness that you're sick. You need to acknowledge you're sick. You need to acknowledge you need help. Then you go to the doctor and describe in detail what you're going through. Only then will the doctor then use her knowledge to be able to help you out, right? But if you don't get to a place where you acknowledge there's something wrong, you're feeling a certain type of way, you acknowledge those exact feelings, and you reach out for help, you will not be able to help the doctor help you. It's the same thing with grief. Before you reach out to a counselor, realize, where are you right now? The first one is shock and denial. The second one is pain and guilt. The third one is anger and bargaining. The fourth one is depression. The fifth one is the upward turn. After depression, things could go anyhow. It could go low, but this one is from a more positive turn. Upward turn. Things are now starting to go well because you're dealing with it. The sixth one is reconstruction and working through. Right? And the seventh one is acceptance and hope. And just by reading this, I can tell that this part for the upward turn, reconstruction, and the acceptance and hope, this one is definitely with somebody. You can't go through this part by yourself. Here you definitely need to work through this with either a loved one or an actual counselor, because you need a lot of accountability in this area. But you don't need to reach the level of depression for you to reach out for help. Even if you're at number 1, please reach out for help before you go through that downward spiral. So realize that this grief is an uneven path. Don't expect perfection from such a tough journey. It's an uncertain journey. You don't know what's going to come in the future. You don't know, but you need to realize you still have power over how you respond. And so you need to know that you will thrive and you will get through it and you will find a way to move forward with it. Not to move on, but to move forward with it. These are 2 things I highly recommend. Number 1, I'll share with you a personal tool that I actually use to get through those seasons of grief. And the second one is something that I'm actually currently doing, right? The first one is, this is a journaling tip that I personally use it's a tool that I use to help me manage grief. It could be, I used this to help me manage the grief of my pet. It helped me when I lost a pet that I really, really loved. This is also a tip that I used, a tool that I used to heal from a love that I had, a relationship that I was building, but that never took off. This is also a tool that I used to heal from, business projects that I was so passionate about, and even the business that I had that never took off. The failure of those projects, really, it can really take a toll on you if you're a business person and you really put a lot of your passion into stuff. So this is something that I use. take a piece of paper, and this is a journaling trip, right? You can literally put it in your journal. So take a piece of paper or a page, right? Split it into three parts. Make sure that there are 3 columns. The first column, write down what sucks about this. Write down, like pour out your emotion on that paper. The important thing about writing things down, it's like it helps you release. It helps you release. Write down on the first column what sucked about it, like what was completely frustrating about this thing. Pour it out. Pour out. The second column, write down what you loved about it and appreciated about it. Write down. Now this is shifting your heart from a place of frustration to a place of thanksgiving and gratitude. Write down what you loved about it. Write down what you are grateful for about it, you know. And then the third column, this I personally call it a gift box. A gift box of lessons and memories. So this last column is very important, because by acknowledging the frustration and turning it around and turning your mind to start thinking about what are you grateful for regardless, it will then help you think about the gift of this process, no matter how difficult it may be. What is the gift box of lesson and memories from this? What you're doing is you are acknowledging the lesson. You are acknowledging the gift. You are acknowledging whatever it is that is good that you're taking forward with you. Right? What are you taking forward with you? You know, from this experience. Ask yourself that. If this were a gift to myself, to my future self, right now I haven't yet figured things out. I'm still feeling frustration, but at the same time, I'm still have so much of this love that I'm still trying to figure out where does all this love go. If you were to package a beautiful gift box to your future healed self, who's figured it out, how to move forward, what are you noticing as a lesson? What are you noticing as a moment of gratitude? What are you plucking like a fruit from a tree of lessons? What are you plucking from this so that you can gift yourself? It could be a lesson. It could be an achievement. It could be an experience. Whatever it may be. It could even be a memory. I'm choosing to remember this. Because the reason why this is important is because even as you keep journeying through life, there are those moments. Remember, grief looks like this. On those moments when the grief process takes you down, you will have this as a reference to look at it and say, I choose to bring this forward into my journey. I choose to bring forward this memory. I choose to bring forward this lesson. I choose to bring forward this achievement or opportunity. I choose to bring this forward with me as a gift. And soon you'll find yourself in a place where you're like, okay, I'm still remembering the grief, the loss as if it was yesterday or 5 minutes ago. But you know what? Look at this beautiful box of gifts, lessons, and memories that I have to take forward with me, right? And that's how you then become a light in your own life and in the people around you, because you are choosing to carry forward with you something positive and beautiful from it, so that anytime you face any triggers, you can heal. It's a self-healing mechanism, and it's really worked wonders for me in my life. So, and I hope that it does the same for you. The second part is, and if you take nothing else from this lesson, from this episode, please take this one. This one is very important. Please reach out for help. Asking for help does not make you weak. Instead, it actually makes you such a courageous person. Please reach out for help. You do not have to go through this alone. Yes, you are going through the grief, but you do not have to go through it alone. And please don't believe those fake things that people are talking about out there of, oh, I don't want you to dump negativity on me. Please, the people who truly love you, they will show up for you. They will help you go through it. they will not see it as a burden. It will be shared, right? And also you can reach out for professional help. If you're in a place, maybe if your immediate environment, you don't have maybe people who are like that, reach out for professional help. There are amazing counselors and therapists out there. Make sure that those therapists and counselors you reach out to, they are also in alignment with your beliefs. For example, I am receiving therapy from an institute called Amani Counseling and Training Institute. It's based here in Kenya. And I specifically chose that institute because it is founded under Christian beliefs. I know that there's some therapists and there are counselors who believe in other things which aren't necessarily aligned with my spiritual life and my spiritual values, right? Which is Christian based. So that's why I chose a counselor who also understands my spiritual values, because they will also understand how even spiritually I can manage this grief, right? Because also grief is spiritual. So I do not want to tie myself or receive counseling or therapy from somebody whose spiritual advice might not necessarily be in alignment with mine. So please, there are people who are willing, who even have jobs, careers to help people like you get through grief. There's so much out there. There's so much help out there. But that help can't come to you if you don't acknowledge that you need it and you reach out and say, I need help. I am a coach, but I'm going through therapy. Therapists also go through therapy. Coaches also go through therapy. Everyone needs therapy, from children to grown-ups to everyone needs therapy. As long as you're an emotional being that encounters and experiences loss and all manner of things, you need therapy. And you don't need to wait until things are really, really, really bad for you to get therapy. As soon as you realize that there's something that's not right and there's something that's taking away something from you, your energy, your emotions, please reach out for help. It shows you are a strong person. It shows that you are a courageous person. So realize that even us who are in this field of helping people, we do need help. I am a coach and I receive coaching as well. I am a coach, but I also receive therapy. We all need each other to show up in the very best of our purpose and our passions too, so that we can show up as the very best versions of ourselves, right? So I hope that you realize grief is not something that you get over. Grief is something you move forward with. And that love, my dear, I promise you will find a place. It's so much love, but I promise you, as you keep learning how to move forward with it, you will find a place. That love will find a place. Okay? So please comment below. Are you currently going through grief? And what stage do you think you're in? I'm not here to judge. I'm going through grief myself. I'm not here to judge. I am not here to make you feel bad. I'm here to walk with you. And I'm here to hear you out. And if you're struggling to figure out, where can you get support with therapy from, I have an amazing network of friends who are coaches and others who are also therapists. Reach out to me and I can connect you with them. Okay? And please comment below if you're going through grief and if you need help, and if I can reach out, if I can connect you with somebody. You're not alone. We are in this together, and all that love that we have, it will find a home. It will find a home. Be very, very, very compassionate with yourself. You will get through this. You will learn how to move forward with it. It is possible. Okay? So, that's all for today. This is Let's with Ayuma, where I'm empowering progressive women from all around the world, just like you and I, to thrive with purpose. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.